Welcome to Attorney 911, the podcast. With attorney Ralph Manginello. Let's get some answers to the most asked questions. We break down the legal issues and provide expert advice to help you navigate life's legal challenges. You might even call us your first responder to a legal emergency. Up next, real-world cases, valuable insights, and practical tips you can use today. It's time to get smart like a lawyer.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I want to introduce my good friend, an amazing lawyer, tremendously long-hitting golfer, and just all-around great guy, Dan Simons, who's running for Harris County District Attorney. How you doing, Dan?
I appreciate you having me on the show. And I think the one accomplishment that I like out of all that is the hitting the long drive.
Okay. Well, all your clubs you hit really far, but especially that one. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. This is, I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much for making the time. I know you're super busy. So let's get right into it. I had, my first question was, I think everyone wants to know, what made you want to become a lawyer? What made you get into the practice of law? Growing up, was there some event that you're like, I really want to represent people or do this or do that? How'd that come about?
I'll back up and kind of give you a little bit of overview history of where I come from, because I've never really shared a lot about my past with hardly anybody until this election. This is a non-traditional year for an election, and I'm definitely a non-traditional candidate. I don't come from wealth. I don't come from any type of privilege or political background. I mean, I grew up homeless and in foster care. Moved in with friends that I met through the Salvation Army just to have the opportunity to be the first to graduate high school in my family's history. The reason, education was not a big deal in my environment. My brothers and sisters, none got past the 9th grade. Mom and dad didn't get past the 6th and 7th grade. So education was not a priority. And upon graduating high school, I wasn't all just a quarterback, graduated 4th in my class. When I graduated, the family I was living with said, Dan, you're on your own. There's nothing we can do for you. And I joined the Air Force to become a cop. And the reason I wanted to be a cop is one simple reason. Predators prey on the poor, the weak, and the vulnerable. And I wasn't spared as a child. Between the ages of 8 and 15 years old, I was a child victim. Nobody was there to give me a voice. Nobody was there to help me. Nobody was there when I needed it and even recognized that I needed help. I never want a victim to ever feel that way. After the military, and I'm going to digress for a moment and explain my military career for a minute. At 19 years old.
Please. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. At 19 years old, my biological dad, who had been disabled as long as I've known him, was fishing for a living at Lake Livingston. The boat motor kicked out and almost killed him. He put his arm up to stop it. I came down from the military from Utah, and they said, look, somebody's got to take care of your dad. At that moment, my dad became my man-child dependent at 19 years old. No child needs to be taken into that kind of responsibility, but I wasn't going to back away from responsibility. Ultimately, that cost me my military career. My dad had surgery a couple years later, and I was stationed, had an overseas tour duty, and I had somebody taking care of my dad. And that person up and left him, and I asked my first sergeant, hey, just check on my dad. And they said, well, we're going to bring you back, but you got a decision to make. We can honorably discharge you, or you can give your dad up as a dependent. There was no way I was going to give my dad up and turn my back. So my military career was given up for my dad. To make ends meet, I started working around there and got into business, amazingly enough, and got into a business I did very well at. And hit another plateau that, you're too young and you don't have an education, you can't ever run our business. So I had my own business. And later at 27 years old, got inspired to become a lawyer, but I had to go to college first. So I moved back down to Texas and started Angeline Junior College. I still worked out of state, Vail, Jackson Hole, Maui, Park City, to still take care of my obligations. I then went to Sam Houston State University, where I graduated number 1 out of 1,108 students in 2008. Now, at this time,
wow.
Well, people ask me, why did you stay in Houston? Why'd you want to go to Houston? Well, my dad was fighting cancer, and we were driving 2 days a week down to MD Anderson from Lake Livingston. and I needed to be close by just in case it started again. So I picked Thurgood Marshall because they gave me an offer. And everybody said, Dan, don't go to Thurgood. You can't graduate from Thurgood. You can't pass the bar from Thurgood. You certainly can't get a good job from Thurgood Marshall. The two things not stripped from me as a child is my honor and my integrity, and you dance with those who brought you. I proudly went to Thurgood, graduated magna cum laude, passed the bar on the first try, and now I'm running to be the first Thurgood Marshall District Attorney in Harris County history. But I didn't stop there. I went to University of Houston for my master's in tax law because I hate tax that much. And a lot of the defense attorneys watching this know that I went into instead of going to the tax world, I went into the DA's office, and 3.5 years, tried over 70 trials, where most prosecutors, as you know, try about 20, 22 trials. I've been practicing criminal defense ever since. I love what I do for a living. I get to work for myself. I love being an attorney, either side, defense or prosecution. I know that, several attorneys started calling me DA Dan when I walk into the courtroom because, not exactly a term of endearment, but, I went into the DA's office at 30-something years old. Most prosecutors were mom and dad, paid for elementary, junior high, high school, college, and law school, and their first job in life is the DA's office. Well, I walked into that office with 12 years of business experience, 4 years of our military experience, and a lifetime of adversity and hardship. The military is just under 3 years. So I had a little different eyes when I walked in there. And when I looked across the crowd, I didn't see defendants, I saw people. And it was an easy decision to go work for the DA's office instead of doing the lucrative tax job. So that is the two triggers that triggered me into wanting to become a lawyer. I had a nasty custody dispute where I wanted to be a part of my daughter's life. And the second one was my business arrangement that I had was on a handshake deal. And those two things catapulted me that, look, I need a law degree. I never want to go through this again. Yeah. I want to protect others from that situation. And honestly, it has been kind of a godsend as well, because I probably wouldn't be here today if those events had not triggered me. And for me, when I hit an adverse situation, I don't cower from it. I learn from it and I do something about it. And in this case, I became a lawyer. And here I am running for district attorney in one of the largest counties in the country with so many things possessed in one district attorney that not many district attorney candidates, if ever, have all had all these things at one person. 16 years of business experience before and after getting a law degree, military experience. I know what it means to be a prosecutor. I know what it means to be a real defense attorney. I also know what it means to be a victim. And I know what it means when somebody tries to use the system against you. These are all the things that I bring to the table, and that's why I believe that I can build a fantastic DA's office that works for everybody, not just one party, take politics outside of it. My whole goal is to build a positive work environment where we bring back a lot of these prosecutors that left or were asked to leave several years ago that have been practicing defense because their eyes are seeing both sides. I think there'd be a lot of benefit. We can train the prosecutors we've got there. We can have a lot of open communication. I want to build the bridge between the defense bar and the DA's office. I want trust. Like when I walk into a courtroom and I tell a prosecutor, hey, I've got this situation, you should look at this. I want there to be that level of communication where, you know what, show me that. That makes my job easier. Help me. We can work together. It doesn't always have to be adversarial. As far as the judges, I want to bridge the gap. I've worked with all those judges down there for the last almost 8 years. I know nearly every prosecutor down there that works in trial bureau. And as far as the law enforcement, we have to fix the communication there. That'll fix intake by having seasoned prosecutors there. And we train intake as well, or the law enforcement going, hey, when you call in, this is what we're looking for. We're not trying to be difficult. Here are the elements we've got to meet. And if you don't meet it, we're going to tell you why, we're going to decline it, or why you need to further investigate, or we're going to accept it. But we've got to communicate and we've got to go train the officers, because there's a lot of officers that have never dealt with the DA's office as I remember it. And there's a way to do this and we can work together. And this is what I bring to the table and I believe that I can do.
Yeah. And I've known you for, years, and we've, become really good friends. And I never knew half the stuff you just told me, but thank goodness we have you running, from my opinion, because of your experience, your life experience, but also you're bringing, like you said, a human side to this office that I don't think's been there. And as far as I can remember any time. Um, Specifically, you have the experience of, the military background and being a DA and being a criminal defense attorney. But go ahead and tell us, from your years as a DA, what can you bring from those years that you think was good, right? And then add on to that as you're, come into office.
One of the
next year.
things that I saw in the DA's office was I hate people walking on eggshells. We don't need people walking around afraid to do their job. I saw that we need to trust and build trust so we can give discretion to the prosecutor so they can do their job. We're there, the staff is there to support you and help you grow, not try to penalize you and embarrass you at every moment. We need to have an environment where it's a culture that we're supporting each other. No, you don't move up in my office by how many heads you step on. You move up by reaching your hand down and helping the person below you up to your level. This is the level of commitment that I want, because the number one asset in the DA's office, it's the prosecutors. It's the support staff. It's the employees. That's your number one asset. And you got to take care of all of them down to the secretary. And I want everybody to treat me the same way that they would treat their secretary or their paralegal or anybody in the court. I want everybody to treat everybody respectfully and work together. Nobody's above the law. Nobody's treated differently. And a lot of defense attorneys have not, obviously none of it contributed to my campaign, but none of them fear that I would hold it against them because they know me. I would never hold it against anybody.
Right.
Everybody will be treated equally regardless of who you support in this campaign. I want to build that kind of level of trust, and people know that I'm going to do the right thing whether you're looking or not. And that's what I can bring to the DA's office.
Well, and I know, like I said, I know you and I trust you, and I have no doubt that, you stand by your word. And one of the things that I think the trust, when you talk about that, is, instilling the power in the DAs that are in the courtrooms to make their own decisions. I know when I was going down there every day and dealing with certain DAs, you're trying to do your job and they can't make any decisions, right? It's like, oh, well, you need to reset this case, or you got to do this because I can't give you an offer or this and that. It's like, I think you and I have talked about this before. It's like empowering them to do their job, right, to a certain level. And so how do you see that, if you were to be elected, how would you instill that?
Misdemeanor is
DAs?
Misdemeanor offenses against the state of Texas. I am not trying to take away the seriousness of some of these misdemeanor offenses. But let's face it, in the DA's office, misdemeanor is the trial grounds. It is where we train our prosecutors. I need them to go to trial. They're going to fail. It's okay. I need them to learn from their mistakes. We need to build them and give them the confidence they need so when they get the felony, that we don't have to worry about that. I want prosecutors to get back to being prosecutors. I want them to be prepared for trial, have all the assets and tools they need to go to trial. So when they go to felony, they have 13, 14 trials under their belt. And they come back down as a chief and they've seen both. I think that it'll really fix their confidence in being able to make the right decision so we can trust them with these decisions. And that's what we've got to get back to. I also want to do something a little different. I want to take the felony courts and I want to assign one of the misdemeanor courts as a sister court. I want to have the prosecutor chief and the twos be able to reach out to another chief that they can count on. So my chiefs are going to be the kind of chiefs that are willing to train and supervise prosecutors. If you're not willing to train your supervisors, you're not going to be a chief in my office. I'll find another job for you. I will still take care of you. I'll find a place. But if you're not willing to train and help people grow, I'm not going to let you be a chief. I need to go in and make sure everybody knows that we're all hands on deck. I'm going to be in trial working as well. I do not lead from the rear. I lead from the front. You're going to see me out there just as much as you see other prosecutors. And this is the level of commitment that I have as well to all the prosecutors. I'm not willing to ask you to do a job that I'm not willing to do myself. We do that and we fix those things in misdemeanor. You're going to see things move a lot better, and misdemeanor court is going to flow up to felony court. And I think the communication between the defense bar, because I'd like to have meetings with the defense bar and the judges and say, look, where can we improve? Where can we be better? This is your county too. And as a defense attorney, I've seen,
Right.
I'm not out there trying to get murders and rapists back on the street. I'm out there to hold the state to their burden and work with the state on all cases. So we need to get away from that whole aspect of things like, oh, it's either dismissal or trial at all costs, because there's a lot of reasonable attorneys out there going, hey, you know what? Maybe we need some probation. Maybe we need some classes. Maybe a deferred in this case or that.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a time for trial.
Yeah.
And I really hope that we can come together like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because I know, again, you're down there every day, but it seems to be there are certain DAs that are in the office that are great and they understand that we're all doing a job. And then there's a lot that it is like us versus them. And it's like, you're there and you're saying to them, I'm not here to fight with you. I'm here to do my job, just like you're doing your job. Let's work together to make the job easier. Judges too, right? We just want to get this thing done efficiently and do what's right for the state and do, it's always this negotiation, but you got to work.
And you got to also make sure that you're communicating. What I would like to do for resets, I would like the coordinator, the defense attorney, and the prosecutor to be coordinating and send emails back and forth. Go, hey, I want to reset this case. What are you missing? What do you need? State, can you get that? Right. Okay, reset it. Right. So that way we're all still moving forward. Now, I understand there are situations that, even me, I get it. Your case gets resolved too fast, you don't get paid. I mean, some of the best attorneys down there, and I've experienced this. Right. I'm very good at what I do. You're very good at what you do. And sometimes we get penalized by our clients by doing our job too well. But, and you're not paying an hourly rate. You're paying for the experience and the years of work that we put into this. So I get it. It's a balancing act, but I also don't want these things dragging out for 2 years to get somebody paid. Like, look, let's kind of work together here. Let's be reasonable, but I want to make sure that we're all communicating and working together towards a common goal. And that's hopefully we can reduce the docket, not reduce the quality of care of each case, protect all the victims' rights and the defendant's rights, do our job to seek justice the way it needs to be done. And in some cases it's a dismissal, some cases it's a pretrial diversion, some it's probation, jail, prison, in some cases it's a death penalty. So it's an easy fix. Right. But you've got to have somebody that's willing to do that and set the tone, because people follow what the leader does. And you've seen courts down there. If the judge is one of those terrors, guess what the coordinator takes on? The same persona.
Yeah. You're right. And I think you're right in that if you could start that communication with everybody and just say, hey, from now on, let's, and put something in place where there is an open communication about how things are going to work more efficiently, more effectively.
There's a lot of things to do together, but it's all about communication first. And that's where I really excel. And it's running a business. It's not just being a prosecutor and managing people. It's also running a business, which I've done for 16 years on my own before and after getting a law degree. So I understand that aspect of things too. And it's going to be a fight with the commissioner's court trying to get budget, because the DA's office is well underfunded, as we know. It's lacking a ton of prosecutors. It's lacking a ton of victim advocacies. There's a lot of things, but I think that if budgeted right and done right, we can maximize what little we have. And I think I'm the person to do that. I mean, hell, look what this idea with this campaign, shoestring budget, and we're out there working with pretty much nothing, but I managed to show what I can do with very little. And I think people are kind of shocked going, how were you able to do that? Well, it's about running it like a business and a tight ship and basically pinching pennies.
Yeah, and before I forget, I want to tell all of our listeners, please go to danforda.com, and if you want to support Dan, you can look on him there and see what he's all about. I'm here to tell you that I trust Dan, and I think he would do a great job as Harris County District DA. Dan, let me ask you this. I've seen a lot of articles, and I talk to a lot of lawyers, and I talk to a lot of friends and family, and they're all asking me, what's the deal? Why are these criminals are getting out of jail and they're hurting people, and these judges won't keep them in jail? And my answer was, and I could be wrong, that's why I'm asking you. I said, look, there was a case, I don't remember the name of the case. Remember the case a couple of years ago where it said that everyone's entitled to a bond. You can't hold anybody. And so the pendulum swung from we're going to hold everybody in because we don't want them to get out and do anything bad, to way over here where we're letting almost everybody out because we have to. And now the pendulum's kind of swung back into the middle, in my opinion. But is that kind of what happened?
I think it's a right
assessment.
assessment. It is the O'Donnell consent decree that the judges signed away their discretion. I would like to challenge that and give the judges back their discretion. We've got to trust our judges. And as DA, I want to give them the tools they need to make the decisions. We're not going to be afraid of our evidence. We got something we want to ask for no bond. We're going to show the judge why. Not just trust, oh, we have this judge here. Here's a DIMS and read it. No. You want to have a hearing? Let's do it. Let's not be afraid of our law enforcement doing their job. Let's not be afraid of what we've got. Let's give the judges the tools they need. But the signing away and agreeing to give up their discretion, some people have 16 to 17 bonds in misdemeanor. We can fix that. And hopefully they would want to challenge that themselves or just get out of that agreement and we can get back to a little normalcy. Now, but you also don't want to go all the way back to where it feels like we're putting everybody in jail either. And the case that the O'Donnell consent decree was all about, honestly, that person never should have been in jail. Driving while license invalid. Are you kidding me? We got other things to worry about. Cite them. We have traffic court for that. I get it, but it's a different guard now. And I can tell you going forward, it's never going to go back to the way it was with the older generation of judges that had been there for 16 and 20 years. Yes. And I think that working together, I think after the election, assuming I win, I think you're going to see a lot of change in the judges as well, because I really do believe I've got pretty good relationships with them and we can really work together to fix this right.
Yeah, I think that's important to voters. So I'm glad that you answered that and kind of explained that you have a plan of action for that. And so moving forward into 2025, what do you think of the top 2 or 3 issues that, as a new Harris County District Attorney, that you're going to have to address right away that are probably the top
Number
3
one,
things on your list?
Work on creating a positive work environment so we can get back some seasoned prosecutors from whatever counties I can poach them from and defense attorneys who want to come back to work. I'll send out an SOS to a lot of the attorneys that I know saying, hey, come in and help me. I don't want any toxic work environment. I don't want any drama. I want people willing to come in there because there's a lot of dedicated defense attorneys that love being a prosecutor and they're very good at what they do. And I'd like for them to come back. So that will be number 1. Number 2, get intake back under control to where we have seasoned prosecutors working that. And I need the same prosecutors to go out to the law enforcement training area, wherever they have their monthly or their training, and show them, hey, here's some actual calls that come in and you tell me what's wrong with this. And show them, hey, this is why we have this checklist. This is why we're not trying to be adversarial. The intake division should be an asset to all law enforcement. It's to help you with your job, not hurt you. And that's number 2. Number 3 would bridge the gap with judges and the law enforcement. Because if we do that, it'll filter down to all the citizens in Harris County and going, no, when I call 911, I can trust that law enforcement officer coming over because they trust the DA. It goes right back up to the DA's office. You do this 1, 2, 3. It's going to come down to budgeting and reorganizing the DA's office too.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, so we can explain it to our listeners. When you say intake, that means when an officer's out on a scene, gathers facts, talks to whoever they have to talk to, they call the DA's office and say, I have a potential aggravated assault, or I have a potential assault case. This is what happened. What is the issue now? I didn't know that there was, but you're saying like
what it is they'll have a situation to where, let's say the officer's not, well, I'll make it easier. We'll do a DWI because it's a lot easier and cleaner. All right. Officer calls in, says, hey, I got a DWI, came into contact with him, smelled alcohol, got him out of the car, 6 of 6, 3 of 4, 6 of 8 on the walk-in term. Hey, blew a .12. I want a DWI charge. And the prosecutor should stop right there and go, wait a minute. How'd you come into contact with this guy? Well, he's on the side of the road. Was his car on? No. Is the hood hot? No. Keys in the ignition? No. What was he doing? He was sleeping? Well, you're going to have a problem with operation. We're going to have to decline that charge. And you got a public intoxication, but you take a case like that. They think they have a DWI, but they're missing one important element like operation. And you've got a lot where they don't have any signs of intoxication, but have a gut feeling that, oh, this person's intoxicated, but they don't articulate red bloodshot eyes, slurred speech, unsteady on their feet, smell alcohol in their breath. I mean, all these different things. So it's that kind of thing to show them, hey,
driving indicators.
And you're saying these things, we're asking for these elements for a reason. Are you in Harris County? I know it sounds stupid. What are they driving? Okay. Same thing with the warrants. I mean, I worked every level of the DA's office for intake. I was assigned the intake. I volunteered for the nights and mid-shift intake, and I was assigned and did DWI intake at Risner. So I did a lot of warrants as well. And I see a lot of warrants out there really lacking. And officers are doing their own warrants. I'd kind of like to say, well, we're going to train you to do that, or we're going to do the warrants for you because you're getting massacred by the defense bar. So it's that kind of training, because if we do that and we're showing that, hey, we're an asset and now they're trusting us, we can move forward. And that's kind of what we need to bridge with intake.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I am pretty sure that the average person, a public person walking around in Houston and Harris County just didn't know that, that was something that you could make a change and a difference to. So we appreciate that. What else? Let's see.
Man, we got 10 days.
How many
for
days
the
till the election?
It's
all right.
November 5th is election day. I think early voting is going to be, we're going to see if it's close and we have election day. It's going to be a gut wrenching night for both of us, and we'll see how it plays out. But all I can do is say that I did everything that I could to put us in the best position. I'm not running for Republican or Democrat district attorney. I'm running for Harris County district attorney. I don't have any support by the establishment of my party. I don't have Paxton, Trump, Cruz, Abbott. I don't have any of those guys. I've got Mattress Mac and I've got Commissioner Ramsey. Those are my two most important endorsements, because when the county fails you, those persons step up. And I want to surround myself with people like that. That's what separates me from probably other candidates as well. I'm really running a very independent, moderate Republican campaign. I want to take politics out of the DA's office, keep it independent. And I think by doing that, you're going to see a DA's office you haven't seen for a long time.
Well, I think everyone in Harris County is looking forward to more order, law and order in your case. And, again, I support you. I'm so glad you came to tell us, what you would do to make a difference. And I wholeheartedly support you and can't wait to
I really
see you,
love this. Thank you for the support. And I really hope I get the opportunity. I just want to hold people accountable for their actions so we can get back to where Harris County is not a criminal safe haven. I mean, as they're running into Montgomery County, they slam on the brakes, hoping they get arrested in Harris County. I mean, we got to stop that. We've got to let people know that, look, Harris County is a safe place to work, live, and play, that your business is going to be protected. And I really do believe that I can deliver the district attorney's office that we need right now. And I've got nothing against Sean. I wish him all the best. If he wins, I hope he listens to what I'm saying and maybe implement those things, to be honest. I mean, this is a team effort, and it's not going to be just one person fixing Harris County. It's going to be pretty much everybody working together. And I'm hoping I get the opportunity to bring everybody together to the same table and we work together on this. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to let people know who I am and what I'm about and what I can do.
Yeah, for sure. And just again, everyone listening, you heard it here. Dan Simons is saying he's willing to work with both sides. He's willing to work with the current establishment and get some other people in there that have experience, know what they're doing, and he wants to run a better ship. So look out for that and vote for Dan Simons on election day. Thanks, Dan.
You just learned something new. Attorney 911, the podcast, with attorney Ralph Manginello. We hope you found today's conversation insightful and helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode, and share it with family and friends who might benefit from the things we talk about. A new podcast launches every week. That means you get more legal tips, real-life cases, and expert advice. This is Attorney 911, the podcast.